2 weeks later, flying in January should be a violation of the Codex. Between the howling storm and the incessant fog in my goggles, I can't see shit as we cut through the blustering snow squall above the mountains near Basgiath. Hoping we're almost through the worst of it, I grip the pommels of my saddle with gloved hands and hold tight. Dying today would be inconvenient, I say down the mental pathway connecting me to Tairn and Andarna, unless you're trying to keep me away from the scenarium this afternoon. I've waited more than a week for the invitation disguised order to come from the King's Council, but the delay is understandable given they're on the fourth day of unprecedented peace talks happening on campus. Boromir has publicly declared they'll walk after the seventh day if terms can't be reached, and it isn't looking good. I only hope that they'll be in an agreeable mood when I arrive. Want to make your meeting? Don't fall off this time, Tairn retorts. For the last time I didn't fall off, I argue. I jumped off to help Sawyer. Don't remind me. You can't keep leaving me off patrols. Andarna interrupts from the warmth and protection of the veil. It isn't safe, Tairn reminds her for what has to be the 100th time. Weather aside, we're hunting dark wielders, not out for a pleasure flight. You shouldn't fly in this, I agree, looking for any sign of Rydok and Atrom, but there's only walls of white. My chest tightens. How are any of us supposed to see topography or our squad mates, let alone spot a dark wielder hundreds of feet below in this mess? I can't remember a more brutal series of storms than the ones that have battered the War College in the last 2 weeks, but without Mom. Grief sinks the tips of her razor-sharp claws into my chest, and I lift my face to feel the stinging bite of snow against the tops of my cheeks, focusing on anything else to keep breathing, keep moving. I'll mourn later, always later. It's just a quick patrol, Andarna whines, jarring me from my thoughts. I need the practice. Who knows what weather we'll encounter on the search for my kind. Quick patrols have proven deadly, and I'm not looking for reasons to test Andarna's fire theory. Dark wielders may have limited power within the wards, but they're still lethal fighters. The ones who didn't escape post-battle have used the element of surprise to add multiple names to the death roll. First Wing, Third Wing, and our own claw section have suffered losses. Then practice evenly dispersing enough magic to keep all your extremities warm during flight, because your wings won't hold the weight of this ice. Tairn growls into the falling snow. Your wings won't hold the weight of this ice, and Darna blatantly mocks him, and yet yours miraculously carry the burden of your ego. Go find a sheep and let the adults work. Tairn's muscles shift slightly beneath me in a familiar pattern, and I lean forward as far as the saddle will allow, preparing for a dive. My stomach lurches into my throat as his wings snap closed and we pitch downward, slicing through the storm. Wind tears at my winter flight hood, and the leather strap of my saddle bites into my frozen thighs as I pray to Sinnoh there isn't a mountain peak directly beneath us. Tairn levels out, and my stomach settles as I tug my goggles up to my forehead and blink quickly, looking right. The drop in altitude has lessened the intensity of the storm, improving visibility enough to see the rocky ridgeline just above the flight field. Looks clear. My eyes tear up, assaulted by both wind and snow that feels more like tiny projectiles of ice than flakes. I clean my lenses using the suede tips of my gloves before snapping them over my eyes again. Agreed. Once we hear the same from Fearge and Kruth, we lend today's endeavors. He grumbles. You sound like making it 3 straight days without encountering the enemy is a bad thing. Maybe we've really caught and killed them all. As cadets, we've slain 31 Venin in the area surrounding Basgiath while our professors work to clear the rest of the province. It would be 32 if anyone suspected one of them was living among us, though even if he's credited with 17 of the kills. I am not comforted by the quiet wind whips overhead with a crack, and Tairn's head jerks upward. Mine immediately follows suit. Oh no, not wind, wings. Atrom's claws consume my vision, and my heart seizes with panic. He's dropping out of the storm directly on top of us. Tairn. I shout, but he's already rolling left, hurling us from our course. The world rotates, sky and land exchanging places twice in a nauseating dance before Tairn flares his wings in a jarring snap. The movement cracks the inch-thick layer of ice along the front ridges of his wings, and chunks fall away. I draw a full but shaky breath as Tairn pumps his wings with maximum effort, gaining 100 feet. of altitude in a matter of seconds and barreling straight toward the brown swordtail bonded to Rydok. Wrath scalds the air in my lungs, Tairn's emotions flooding my system for a heartbeat before I can slam my mental shields down to muffle the worst of what streams in through the bond. Don't. I shout into the wind as we come up on Atrom's left, but as always, Tairn does whatever he wants and full-on crunches his jaws within what looks like inches of Atrom's head. It was clearly an accident, one that would usually be avoided by dragons communicating. The smaller brown swordtail squawks as Tairn repeats the warning, then Atrom exposes his throat in a gesture of submission. Rydok looks my way through the band of snow and throws up his hands, but I doubt he sees my shrug of apology before Atrom falls away, heading south. To the flight field. Guess Fearge and reported in. Was that really necessary? I drop my shields, and Tairn's and Andarna's bonds come flooding back at full strength, but the shimmering pathway that leads to Xaden is still blocked, dimmed to an echo of its usual presence. The loss of constant connection sucks, but he doesn't trust himself or what he thinks he'll become to keep it open yet. Yes, Tairn answers, declaring the single word sufficient. You're almost twice his size, and it was obviously an accident, I repeat as we descend rapidly to the flight field. The snow on the ground of the box canyon has been trampled into a muddy series of paths from the constant patrols second and third years are flying. It was negligent, and a 22-year-old dragon should know better than to close himself off from his riot simply because he's arguing with his rider. Tairn grumbles, his anger lowering to a simmer as Atrom lands beside Rhee's green dagger tail. Fearge, Tairn's claws impact the frozen ground to Atrom's left, and the sudden landing vibrates every bone in my body like a rung bell. Pain explodes along my spine, my lower back taking the brunt of the insult. I breathe through the worst of it, then accept the rest and move on. Well, that was graceful. I jerk my goggles to my forehead. You fly next time. He shakes like a wet hound, and I block my face with my hands as ice and snow fly off his scales. I tug at the leather strap of my saddle when he stills, but the buckle catches along. The jagged, shitty line of stitches I put in after the battle, and one of them pops. Damn it, that wouldn't have happened if you'd let Xaden fix it. I force my body out of the saddle, ignoring the aching protest of my cold, cramped joints as I make my way across the icy pattern of spikes and scales I know as well as my own hand. The Dark One didn't cut it in the first place, Tairn responds. Stop calling him that. My knee collapses, and I throw my arms out to steady my balance, cursing my joints as I reach Tairn's shoulder. After an hour in the saddle at these temperatures, a pissed-off knee is nothing. I'm lucky my hips still rotate. Stop denying the truth. Tairn enunciates every word of the damning order as I avoid a patch of ice and prepare to dismount. His soul is no longer his own. That's a little dramatic. I'm not getting into this argument again. His eyes are back to normal. That kind of power is addictive. You know it, or you wouldn't be pretending to sleep at night. He twists his neck in a way that reminds me of a snake and levels a golden glare on me. I'm sleeping. It's not entirely a lie, but definitely time to change the subject. Did you make me repair my saddle to teach me a lesson? My ass protests every scale on Tairn's leg as I slide, then land in a fresh foot of snow, or because you don't trust Xaden with my gear anymore. Yes, Tairn lifts his head far over mine and blasts a torrent of fire along his wing, melting off the residual ice, and I turn away from the surge of heat that painfully contrasts my body temperature. Tairn. I struggle for words and look up at him. I need to know where you stand before this meeting, with or without Empyrean approval. I can't do any of this without you. Meaning, will I support the myriad of ways you plan to court death in the name of curing one who is beyond redemption? He swivels his head in my direction again. Tension crackles along Andarna's bond. He's not I cut off that particular argument since the rest is sound. Basically, yes, he grumbles deep within his chest. I fly without warming my wings in preparation for carrying heavier weight for longer distances. Does that not answer your question? Meaning Andarna, relief gusts through my lips on a swift exhale. Thank you. Steam rolls in billowing clouds from his nostrils. But do not mistake my unflinching support of you, my mate, and Andarna for any form of faith in him. Tairn lifts his head, cueing the end of the conversation. Heard. On that note, I trudge toward the trampled path where Ree and Quinn wait. Rydok gives Tairn a wide berth as he does the same to my right. My nearly numb, gloved fingers fumble with the 3 buttons on the side of my winter flight hood, and the fur-lined fabric falls away from my nose and mouth as I reach them. Everything good on your route? Ree and Quinn look cold but uninjured, thank gods. Still, alarmingly routine. We didn't see anything of concern. Wyvern Burn Pit is still just ash and bone too. Ree picks a clump of snow from the lining of her hood, then pulls it back up over her shoulder-length black braids. We didn't see shit for those last 10 minutes, period. Rydok shoves his gloved hand into his hair, snowflakes slipping off his brown cheeks without melting. At least you're an ice wielder. I gesture to his annoyingly flake-free face. Quinn pulls her blonde curls into a quick bun. Wielding can help keep you warm too. I'm not chancing it when I can't see what I might strike, especially having lost my only conduit in the battle. I glance at Rydok as a line of our tail section's dragons launch for their patrol behind him. What were you arguing with Atram about anyway? Sorry about that. Rydok cringes and lowers his voice. He wants to go home back to Aricia. Says we can launch the search for the 7th breed from there. Ree nods, and Quinn presses her lips in a firm line. Yeah, I get that. I say it's a common sentiment among the riot. We're not exactly welcome here.